When we think of elves, images of Legolas from The Lord of the Rings or Santa's helpers might spring to mind. Tall and graceful, with an air of otherworldly beauty, these elves are often associated with magic, nature, and a touch of mischief. However, the elves of ancient mythology were quite different. While they shared some similarities with their modern counterparts, they were more complex and often more menacing figures. These elves were not always the benevolent guardians of forests we often imagine today. Their origins lie deep in the myths and legends of the Germanic people, where they were seen as powerful spirits, both wondrous and terrifying. To truly understand elves, we must journey back to these ancient tales. We must explore the roots of their mythology and trace their evolution through the centuries. Let us delve into the world of ancient Germanic folklore and uncover the true origins of elves. Let's separate the fantasy from the folklore and discover the fascinating evolution of these mythical beings. The very word elf hints at the ancient roots of these beings, derived from the Proto-Germanic word alb, meaning white or bright. This linguistic link suggests an early association between elves and a sense of luminescence, purity, or even the supernatural. However, the meaning of elf was not always so clear-cut. In Old Norse, the word alpha could refer to a range of supernatural beings, not all of them benevolent. Some were associated with nature and fertility, while others were seen as mischievous or even dangerous spirits. This ambiguity is important. It reflects the complex and often contradictory nature of elves in early Germanic belief. They were creatures of duality, capable of both great good and terrible harm. Understanding this duality is essential to grasping the true nature of elves in their earliest forms. The dual nature of elves is a recurring theme in Germanic mythology. They were often seen as guardians of nature, protectors of sacred groves and springs, yet they could also be capricious and vengeful, quick to anger and capable of inflicting illness or misfortune upon those who crossed them. Stories abound of elves playing tricks on mortals, leading them astray in the forests, or stealing their possessions. They were also believed to be skilled in magic, both healing and harmful. This power made them both revered and feared by the people who believed in them. This duality is not unique to elves. It reflects a broader tendency in many mythologies to attribute both positive and negative qualities to supernatural beings. Perhaps it is a way of explaining the unpredictable and often dangerous forces of nature, or perhaps it is a reflection of the complexities of human nature itself. Many tales in Norse mythology feature elves, highlighting their significance in the Norse worldview. One such story tells of Volund, the master smith who was captured and forced to work for a king. Volund, often identified as an elf, used his skills to craft magical objects, but eventually took revenge on his captors in a brutal display of power. Another important connection is between elves and the god Freyr. Freyr, the god of fertility, prosperity, and sunlight, was said to rule over Alfheim, the realm of the light elves. This association further strengthens the link between elves, light, and the natural world. These stories, and many others like them, demonstrate the prominent role elves played in the lives and imaginations of the Norse people. They were not merely fantastical creatures, but integral parts of their mythology, reflecting their beliefs about the world and the forces that governed it. Section 5. Light in the Forest Elves and the Natural World. Throughout Germanic folklore, elves are deeply connected to the natural world. They were often associated with specific places such as forests, springs, hills, and mounds. These places were considered sacred, imbued with the presence of the elves and off-limits to humans except under special circumstances. This association with nature likely stems from the deep respect and reverence that ancient Germanic people held for the natural world. They saw the forests as places of mystery and power, inhabited by spirits and supernatural beings. The elves, with their beauty, grace, and connection to magic, embodied this sense of wonder and otherworldliness. They served as a reminder of the power and mystery that lay hidden within the natural world. Section 6, From Mountain to Magic, Dwarves and Elves Entwined. Interestingly, the lines between elves and other mythical creatures, particularly dwarves, were not always clear-cut. In some early Germanic traditions, dwarves were considered a type of elf associated with the earth and mountains, while elves were more closely linked to light and forests. Over time, these distinctions became more pronounced, with dwarves taking on their own distinct characteristics in mythology. However, the early connections between these beings highlight the fluidity of mythological classifications and how perceptions of these creatures evolved over time. This blurring of lines also reveals the interconnectedness of different mythical beings within a single cultural framework. It reminds us that mythology is not static, but constantly evolving and adapting to new ideas and influences. Section 7. Tolkien's touch-shaping modern fantasy. The image of elves we know today owes much to J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien drew inspiration from various sources, including Norse mythology, Celtic legends, and his own Catholic faith, to create his own unique vision of elves. Tolkien's elves were wise and immortal beings, possessing a deep connection to nature and wielding powerful magic. They played a pivotal role in his epic tales, fighting for the forces of good against the forces of darkness. Tolkien's immense influence on the fantasy genre cemented his particular interpretation of elves in the public imagination. His work sparked a renewed interest in these mythical creatures and shaped the way they have been depicted in countless books, movies, and video games ever since. Section 8. Beyond Middle-earth Elves in Modern Fantasy. Since Tolkien, elves have become a staple of fantasy literature, appearing in countless books, movies, and video games. While their portrayal varies, they often retain certain Tolkien-esque traits, such as their immortality, connection to nature, and skill in magic. However, many authors and creators have also put their own spin on elves, exploring their darker aspects, their complex relationships with humans, and their struggles in a world that has often forgotten them. From the noble elves of The Witcher to the cunning creatures of Holly Black's Folk of the Air series, modern fantasy continues to explore and reimagine the possibilities of these enduring mythical beings. Section 9. The enduring allure of elves, a timeless fascination. From their ancient origins in Germanic mythology to their modern incarnations in fantasy literature, elves continue to captivate our imaginations. Their beauty, grace, and connection to the natural world hold an undeniable allure, while their more menacing aspects add a layer of complexity and intrigue. Perhaps their enduring appeal lies in their duality, their ability to embody both our aspirations and our fears. They remind us of the power and beauty of nature, but also its potential for danger and unpredictability. Whatever the reason, elves remain a source of endless fascination, their stories continuing to be told and retold across generations. As long as we remain drawn to the magic and mystery of the unknown, elves will continue to hold a special place in our hearts and imaginations.